Hey guys, welcome back to Home Built, and this week we are doing the same thing and we're continuing to finish buttoning up the Ferrari engine for the Alfarrari. Alright guys, welcome back, and those watching last week will have seen that I spent a fair bit of time bolting a bunch of bits and pieces back onto the Ferrari engine, including my beautifully ceramic coated headers, which will hopefully hold in a lot of this heat and direct it out the back. Engine mounts, also I got my Wosp Performance alternator on here, which is a monster unit. Yeah, this thing should really do the job, and obviously I had to remake the bracket and stuff like that. So today we've got more stuff to put back onto this car moving forward. So one of the things that I want to address today is I had to modify these inlet runners for fitting in the car. Basically, this top part of the engine, the inlet, originally faced the other way. I've spun it around, and then I had to actually alter the front of these. Years ago, heaps of people were saying, well, why don't you just run them out the back? There is no room out there unless you run no wipers and that sort of stuff, which is fine on a race car, but not on a road car. So what I want to do is I don't fully trust my welds on the front here, because once I get these throttle bodies on either side, there is a lot of weight on this joint, and I don't want this to eventually, you know, it could potentially crack off the welds, and then it's open throttle body, and the thing's just going to rev out and bounce off the rev limiter, and yeah, potentially be bad. So I want to make some braces up to take the weight of the throttle body, and then I won't be so worried about my welds. All right, so I've spent a fair bit of time now trying to work out how to actually mount my braces, and I've found that I'm going to use these two cam cover bolts. That the trouble is that they are not at the same level. This one sits higher than this one, and then I need to make some sort of bracket to then connect up to my throttle body itself, and I'm going to go through these two bolts here. So I need to make some sort of bracket to be able to bolt onto this throttle body and do the job. So let's jump over onto CAD, and I'll show you what I've spent a fair bit of time trying to design up. So I had a bit of a play around with Fusion 360 and found the sheet metal tool, which I'm trying for the first time, and it's really impressive how I can actually design up the 3D shape, and it's quite simple to do, and then I can fold the whole thing flat and then take it over to my friend's CNC plasma table and cut them out, and then I've got this really simple bracket with little notches so I know where to fold everything, and it's actually quite an effective tool. And you'll soon see how it goes together, but I designed it in two pieces so that it's easier to put things together in a 3D space. And this is what they look like when they're cut out. All right, so I have my little standoff bracket here. That's the first half. I'm going to do this in two pieces, and it bolts on nicely onto the 2 points. That part works quite well, but the top bit, it's too close to the bottom of the throttle body itself. So I'm going to have to change the angle of this little section and then try again and see if I can make the bracket come this way a little bit. But from here you can see a little bit better how it bolts on, and it just it fits on quite nicely. All right, so there's my second bracket that I made up, lining up with the first one. There's a little bit of a gap there, so I'm going to just tweak this this little bend here and see if I can make it just that little bit closer than what it currently is. And then, yeah, then I can weld these two together and I have a nice brace that's going to hold this throttle body nice and solid and should do the trick. All right, so I've got my little bracket here. I haven't bolted it on, it's just sitting in place. And I've got the other half that is bolted to the bottom of the throttle bodies. And I was originally going to weld this to this, and then I realized there's no way to get it on and off. It would be locked into place. So I welded in a couple of captive nuts into this base plate, and I've got a couple of holes through here. So hopefully now I should be able to assemble this and bolt it together, and that will give me my brace. Wow, that was a lot of work, but I finally got my brackets made up. So it's 2 bolts in there. I'll replace them with cap head bolts, but this bracket bolts onto the cam cover bolts, and then we've got another bolting point here, and getting everything lined up so it all works and everything's fit in the right place on both sides. So I've got 2 brackets. They're slightly different. This one's got a hole in the middle so I can actually fit the plug through the hole and still connect it up. Lots and lots and lots of work and thought going into a couple of tiny little brackets, but it holds the throttle bodies on so they are, the weight is taken and it's not all just resting on this on these welds up here. So I feel a little bit better about it. And then when it goes through into the front guards, which is over here, they go through either side, and the air filters are on the inside of that, and the air filters will be on a bracket as well, hold it up. So it should do the job. Okay, so while those brackets are drying, I'm going to continue bolting on other bits of the engine, and this bit is my water pump block off. So those who've been following for a while will have seen that I built this some time ago. Basically, the original water pump sat here and it sat up quite high, so I had to remove it. I couldn't use the original water pump with this engine because I had to cut these runners down to get it all to fit in the car. So this is what my alternative version is. I actually have the electric water pump, which sort of sits down in the engine bay, and this is just the block-off plate that I created. So now I need to make a gasket for the back of this to sort of mount it onto this panel here, and then we connect it up to this pipe in the middle and bolt it in. After last week using the rubberized cork gasket, I wasn't very happy with it, so I actually went and got some thicker, better gasket material, which is what I'm actually using here. And I also replaced the gaskets on that water crossover pipe I showed you last week. You can see here that I laid my water pump delete bracket over the top of the gasket material, traced around it everywhere I could, and then I used the hammer to knock around the edge of the hole that I couldn't trace. Then I just go through with some scissors and the punch and cut out the gasket. And then I apply a very thin layer of gasket sealer on both sides of the gasket and then bolt it onto the engine. Well, that is all coming together very quickly, which is really good. Much quicker than I was expecting. And the next job that I had on my list to put on this engine now is the wiring loom. And I was thinking back and I'm going, okay, so I have to go through and have to terminate all the ends of the wiring loom that I made up for the engine. And then I pulled it out of the box, forgetting that I'd already done it. So those might have seen a few months ago, I actually went through and cut up the factory Ferrari wiring loom for this engine. And basically what I've done is I've kept all of the bits that I'm still using for the same connectors, but then I replaced a lot of the loom bits with the connectors for the GDR coil packs, for the injectors that I'm using, for things like the map sensor and other things that I've added onto this engine. I've added all of these into this loom, so now all I need to do is just plug it all in, and these bulkhead connectors will join up in the bulkhead, and from the other side of this is then where I've wired it into the link ECU. So let's start feeding this in and seeing if we can connect it up and basically have most of this ready to rock and roll. All right, so I'm going through and adding in my wiring loom now. Now, it's a really tight fit trying to get everything in through under the engine to make it nice and neat. And I did remember correctly that I haven't done all the wiring. These are actually the old Ferrari coil pack connectors. I have done all of the injectors. You can see here I've got nice new labels on them, but these are the old ones. And I've got a bunch of these from Raceworks, the connectors for these coil packs, so I need to rewire them on. But I also have a bunch of these connections, which I worked out at the time, but now I've forgotten what they are. So I have to go around with my power probe and go to the connections on the end. I do have a list of what all those connectors are, so I should be able to track down pretty quickly what the odd connectors actually are supposed to go to and get this all plugged in. But it's a little bit of just time going through tediously finding each bit. All right, so I just spent a whole bunch of time off camera then messing around, getting all of this wiring sorted and sort of tucked in, connecting up what I needed to connect up, and sorting out some of the things that weren't working. Because I made a bunch of connections that I didn't label. I realized once I put them back in that I hadn't labeled them properly. So I went through and checked, and I found that one of my variable valve timing solenoid wires was not connected properly, so I've gone through, fixed that, and that's all good. So now what I have to do is go through and actually wire up these coil packs. I just need to re-crimp on the Raceworks connectors, and it all should be good. So time for some more wiring. All right, so I've gone through, I've tried to tidy up the wiring as best I can. I've sort of cable tied it together and got it out of the way. It's not the prettiest wiring I could imagine, but at least it all sort of tucks away, and that's as much as you're going to see on the whole engine. There's a little bit here that's going to sort of come out the front again, that'll be tied down, and this will go down to the electric water pump and the electric fans and stuff like that, so that stuff can be connected up later. And again, on this side, you know, it's reasonably neat, as sort of neat as I can easily make it without covering it all up. So now I think we need to bolt on my throttle bodies and see what it all looks like. So this is another week where it feels like I'm really not doing a lot. Like I spent a lot of time and it all seems to just disappear into nowhere. It's one of those things like that all this stuff sort of magically happens on TV and it's all done like in a click of your fingers, and suddenly the car's done. But in reality, this stuff takes time. Going through like some of the little things I didn't really show. I just touch-up painted the throttle bodies and masked them up, going through and troubleshooting the wiring and just tidying up every single thing all along the way. Just takes so much time, but it's really coming together. Now all the wiring is on. Now I'm much more happy about the throttle body brackets. They're going to take the weight. They're not going to snap off. I'm feeling much better about it having some of these redundancies in there. Glad I double checked one of those wiring things. I don't know how it got disconnected, but that all got troubleshooted. All stuff that I did off camera that takes so long and doesn't really make good video. So it's looking pretty good. I think next week I can probably leave the engine and move on to fitting some more bits into the car so that the engine can actually go in. But for now, I think that means it's time for Fun Facts with Mrs. Jeff.
Hey guys, in 1992, Ferrari released the 2+2 successor to the 412 with the 456 GT and GTA with the A denoting automatic. This is only the second and last Ferrari to offer a traditional automatic transmission. The 456 was powered by an all-new 5.5 litre V12 which derived from the Dino V6 rather than the earlier V12s, and it made 440 horsepower. This established it as the second fastest four-seat production car after the Porsche 959. The tubular steel space frame used a special sandwich filler called Ferrari, which enabled the steel and aluminium body components to be welded together. In 2003, the final year of the car's production, customers could choose to go with the Carrozzeria Scaglietti program. And Michael Schumacher's own car was used as an example where the customer could work with Ferrari to create a highly customised car. Schumacher's car had a two-tone paint scheme, uprated handling pack and customised leather interior. While the 2+2 Coupe was the only variant offered to the public, a bunch of interesting cars managed to make their way to Brunei. At least 3 four-door sedans were built, as well as 2 convertibles. Most interestingly, a series of 7 5-door wagons were built at a rumoured cost of $1.5 million each. An aftermarket 456 Targa conversion was created for Shaquille O'Neal, which involved removing the rear seats and putting in longer seat rails for those long legs of his, and also creating a customised interior sound system.
All right, well, that was a lot of little bits and pieces, but now we actually have all the wiring on, all the injectors, the water pump block out thing, and most importantly is the brackets for my throttle body so that they don't snap off, because I've sort of been worried about that. Like I said, a lot of these things really take up so much time, and yeah, on TV shows they just go like that, but in real life that actually takes a lot of work.
And we don't shy away from showing the real life here. You see that it's a long process, and
this is it.
It's not always pretty.
Yeah, there's lots of people who would love to see this done quicker, mostly people who aren't my core followers like you guys who are probably watching right now.
True connoisseurs.
Yes. Or glutton for punishment, one of the two.
Aficionados.
Yes. All right.
All right, like, subscribe, let Jeff know what you think.
All the usual
He loves
stuff.
all that stuff. Patreon, if you want to help him out, see the videos today, really no ads. And I think that's everything. Just stay tuned, man.
Yeah. Keep watching. Hopefully it won't be a lot further away when I can actually start putting this into the car. So
famous last words, Jeff.
Fingers crossed. There's plenty of other things that I have to put in first, but yeah, I'm looking forward to putting it in. All right. See you guys.
Take care, everyone. Ferrari released the successor to the 2+2 with the 412. Oh my God. In 1992, Ferrari released the, because I'm in a rush, like a last Ferrari to offer a traditional automatic transmission. 5.5 litre V12, which derived from the Dino V6. Most interestingly, rather than their earlier V12s, and made 440 horsepower per hour.
Except for the per hour. Horsepower per hour. I like it.
No, it's not a per hour measurement. Okay.
No.
Okay. The 456 was powered by an all-new. Stop laughing.